Things up. Hello, welcome to Foresight TV. I am so happy to be here today, filling in for Steve Moran. Before I introduce my guests, I want to remind you that the Evolve 2022 conference is coming up. It's starting on April 5th. And for those of you involved in life enrichment, I strongly want to encourage you to sign up to register. There are 24 very short, engaging, informative, educational sessions that are going to help you utilize your resources and provide more enrichment to your residents. Evolve is made possible by our super sponsors. It's Never Too Late, Care Center Stage, Pocketbook Memory Fotavia, Quilt, Total Brain Health, and Serona TV. I'm going to go ahead and run the intro, and we'll be right back.
Hey guys, Steve Moran here.
Well, I want to go ahead and introduce my special guest for today. I have Daniel Stringer from Total Care Connections. And before I bring him on, I just want to say this guy is great. He is a 6-time Inc. 5,000 entrepreneur. He's also a Small Business Leader of the Year. And I would love to hear from him how he's achieving that and how he's coping with our caregiver shortage. Daniel, welcome to Foresight TV.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Abbie. I really appreciate you having me on today.
Yeah. So let's address your awards, okay? Because I'm so curious. I just want to know, what does it take to be honored as a 6-time Inc. 5,000 entrepreneur? Tell me, please.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you highlighting that. And thank you again. So, we started our company in 2009 and, never had the intention back then of trying to build something that would, win any awards. The reality is we started with the sole purpose of figuring out how to do in-home senior care better than it was being done back then, and figuring out ways that we could use innovation to do that. So that was our intention. And fast forward several years, and we really started to pick up steam. We grew from Tucson, Arizona, one office, to being in Phoenix as well, now in Colorado Springs. And around 2015 or so is really when our growth really started to take off. And we started to be recognized. And so the Inc. 5000 list is published every year as a list of the fastest privately held companies in the country. And we were honored to be on that 6 times in a row. We very well may be on it for the 7th time this year. We'll see. It comes out in a few months. But it's a huge honor. And I would say that the main key to where we are today and how we were able to achieve that was really staying consistent to our core focus and our core mission, not getting distracted, and just being focused heavily, and sticking it out through the very difficult, seasons that we've gone through, the pandemic most recently. But even when we started 2009, it was a recession. So, being just very focused, sticking to our core mission, knowing who we are, and never giving up and persevering through all of that really led to that growth.
What is your core vision?
Yeah, great question. So our focus is to provide world-class customer service in the world of home care, and to use technology to be a leader in the industry. And technology, specifically the way we see it, is to provide accountability and transparency, and to make it easier for people to both receive care and provide the care. So how our caregivers interact with their job and with their clients and their patients, utilizing technology in that way. So for us, it's always thinking, how do we build a better mousetrap, if you will, and do this at a higher level, but then providing the world-class customer service. I feel like that's been a lacking piece of our industry, and still is to this day, but really saw that when we started, that so many providers focus on the practicality of providing care to their seniors, to their disabled adults. But this idea that they're going to provide this world-class customer experience, that's not even on their radar. And so for us, it's a top priority.
So I'm curious, I know you're passionate about this, but what's your why? Why senior care? Why caregiving? Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah. So when we started, we saw a gap in the industry with regards to innovation. It just was being done in a way where families were left in the dark for the most part. Unless you lived with your family member and you were able to monitor the situation constantly. If you weren't in that scenario, then there wasn't a lot of solutions out there for home care providers who would provide you with that type of transparency or information. And so our why began then. It was this idea that we wanted to create a solution, not just for the senior themselves, but for the family, to be able to have the information that they would like to know about their mom or their dad or their grandparent, even if they lived in another state, and know that there was accountability behind that. So we really wanted to become an innovative home care leader to bridge that gap. Now, that was what we started with. That's still first and foremost, but another why that's developed for us over the years, and probably it's been just equally as high now over the last several years, is building a company where we are the top employer for caregivers and for anybody that works for us, but specifically to serve this market and caregivers, nurses specifically. And not just to be a top employer so that we can wave that badge around, but from the perspective of our employees having a genuinely positive, better experience working here than they would anywhere else. So from a benefits perspective, what are the benefits we're offering? How are we taking care of people during difficult times? We created a benevolence program a few years ago to help staff members if they fall in hard times financially. We think of ways, how can we be the top employer to give our caregivers and our staff the best experience? Because we believe that the quality of care that our clients receive will be a direct reflection of the quality of experience that our team members have working here. And so it's become just as important to us as the actual function of providing care.
Yeah, would love to know more about a couple of things you mentioned. So in regards to what makes Total Care Connection stand apart from other caregiver provider companies, what are those qualities?
Yeah, so there's a few things that are paramount. I'll start off with kind of piggybacking what I just mentioned, but it's the quality of experience that our caregivers have working here. So the majority of home care companies are very small companies. Our industry is fragmented. And it's been fragmented because it's been dominated by franchise systems. So once franchisors saw the writing on the wall, the huge demand for home care, several decades ago, I believe the very first franchise to be created was Home Instead. But since then, there's over 100 different franchise companies that have all created franchisee locations. And so you'll have hundreds of small home care providers in any given market. And they're not collectively able to come together to be able to provide an employee experience, because they are on their own a franchisee is on their own when it comes to how they're going to take care of their employees. So that's not something that the franchisor can engage in, because the franchisor is not the employer of the franchisee's employees. So what's happened to our industry is it's very fragmented. And so the average home care company you're going to go to, even if they have a very big name, you're dealing with a very small location. How does that affect the senior? Well, your hiring company that is small, that maybe they have good customer service, or maybe they've got a great owner, or there's going to be good things about them, but they may be limited in how they can take care of their staff. And that's part of what you are paying for and investing in when you hire a home care company, is making sure that all of those things are being handled and you don't have to worry about it. That's why you're not trying to do it yourself. You're hiring a company to do this for you. But most people don't realize that they're not actually able. Most of these companies are not actually able to provide that experience. So we offer 401k to our caregivers. We offer medical, dental, and vision. We offer PTO. We offer other types of benefits programs like the benevolence program that I mentioned. And so that's made us a huge differentiator in to be able to retain staff. So many home care agencies, a lot of people don't know this, have actually shrunk in size. Think of a better word, but they shrunk in size in 2021. This is coming out of the reporting that's done by Home Care Pulse, which is a nationwide benchmarking study for our industry. And many agencies have actually closed down. And people would say, how's that happening when there's a huge demand for our services? But it's because without infrastructure and the ability to hire and retain great staff, which is actually the most difficult part of our industry today, then you're not able to sustain, and you're not able to provide a great service to the senior. And people don't realize that. They don't realize what's going on behind the scenes. So that's a huge differentiator for us. We've also been on the forefront of technology. And one specific one is electronic visit verification. We were doing electronic visit verification before it was more of a standard thing. A lot of companies do offer it today. But we have been in compliant with it from day one, and have been utilizing it for well over 10 years. And what
Can you explain to me what that looks like?
Yeah. So our caregivers will go into the client's home, and when they arrive, they utilize an app that we have developed where they will log in, they view the care plan. They are able to see everything that they're supposed to be doing for the client. And any special notes. They then clock in via the app. The app is GPS enabled. So if they're not actually on site, then they can't clock in. And then it will trigger our team internally to follow up if that person hasn't clocked in, which you would think that would be an obvious thing that would happen. But the reality is, home care agency may have 150 clients. They may have 100 caregivers supposedly trying to clock in and out that day. The majority of home care agencies are not following through on actually monitoring that. And so 3 or 4 caregivers may not show up that day, and no one's going to know, especially if the senior themselves wasn't making that phone call. And if that senior maybe had dementia, that may not be happening, and you can see where that's going to go from there. And so we've been very hyper vigilant with it. We do manage it really well. And so when a family hires our company, they're going to know that we'll know within minutes within 15 minutes, if a caregiver has not clocked in, and they have to be on site. We are EBV compliant with the state of Arizona because we are a Medicaid provider as well. And so all of that data actually goes to the state of Arizona, and we're held accountable to that. And so we have to be, 100% in compliance with it. So it gives a lot of peace of mind to our clients and their families.
I like that. Thank you for sharing that. And what other type of technology are you using to improve the caregiver experience?
So we utilize, there's some other, for example, with our caregivers, they have the ability to connect with all of our benefits programs and everything through an online app as well. And they have access to all of that. We also utilize a messaging system, a HIPAA compliant messaging system that allows for us to be communicating. We have close to 500 employees. And so you can imagine the complexity in trying to keep everyone in the loop. And so we have a HIPAA compliant communication system that allows us to be communicating via text message and via email, but mainly text. Now, that's really where things have gone, and allow us to be communicating with all of our caregivers, and for them to know what's going on, be able to pick up shifts at the last minute, very easily. So we utilize a few different platforms for those things. And also to mention, our app is HIPAA compliant. I mentioned how you pull up and you clock in and you can view the care plan and the client's information. Well, a family member may go, well, all that information's on their phone. The reality is it's in the cloud. It's not on their phone. And as soon as they close the app, they have to re-log back in to get into it. So it never stays open. They wouldn't even be able to, unless they kept the app open and wanted to show someone, which is against the rules. And people wouldn't do that. But if they were to just leave their phone laying around and someone knew their password to their phone, they still couldn't get access to the app. So it is HIPAA compliant from that perspective.
Yeah. And it's proprietary, right, to your company?
So that particular app, it's called, the technology is called ClearCare, and it's actually not proprietary, that particular system. We've utilized our own systems in the past, but this company in the last 6-7 years has really become the leader in this specific technology. So we've licensed it, and now we utilize that.
And I wanted to ask you, while we're still on the topic of technology, how much things have changed in the past 2 years, right? In terms of serving older adults, how have you seen that impact your company?
So, for example, the EVV compliance I mentioned, electronic visit verification, that was not mandated by the state of Arizona up until it's actually just now becoming mandated. And there was a delay due to COVID. It was supposed to be mandated by law in 2020. So we've had a bit of a delay, but the implementation of it has been on track though. So we are fully compliant, but the mandate had been delayed. So we've seen that. That's changed the entire industry because everyone has had to change and make sure they have technology in place. It's calling everybody to a higher standard. And so we've definitely seen that as a country. Medicaid, obviously it's a nationwide program. And so they are mandating that across the country, Medicare and Medicaid. So that's bringing the bar up, and that's definitely made, we've had to pivot. We've had to make sure that we're in compliance with all of those types of regulations. And then I would say, especially with relation to the pandemic, when we faced the initial few months of the pandemic, trying to figure out what we were going to do, communication was a huge piece of what we needed to navigate to make sure that all of our clients were in the loop. We have clients who can't go without care. So it wasn't an option or a luxury to them where they could say, well, yeah, I'll hold off for a few months, and keeping them in the loop and making sure that we were staying organized, again, with, hundreds of clients per day receiving care. We had to stay organized. So our technology, how we were utilizing it and utilizing it even more, was a huge piece. Our caregivers do a lot of working with the clients to connect them with their family members. So especially during the pandemic, our caregivers were facilitating a lot of these video calls. And so I would say all of our caregivers have had to become somewhat of tech support, to help their clients, connect with their families since they're not able to see them in person. So, a lot of navigating, little changes to big changes, like I mentioned, with electronic visit verification.
Absolutely. And you mentioned earlier attracting and retaining. And because of this shortage that we're experiencing and we are projecting as well, what are some things that you do to attract caregivers and retain them? And we talked about the retention, but what about the attraction?
Yeah. So on the attraction side, we're doing a lot of Facebook ads. Social media marketing has become very big for us in attracting new caregivers. But we're also, one of the things we implemented a few years ago is we put together a training program, and we are state certified now for it. It's called the Direct Care Worker Certification, DCW. And that is an approved program under Access, which is the Medicaid division of Arizona. And so we put that program together in our Tucson and our Phoenix locations. And we're looking at right now putting an entire campaign together to train brand new people into caregiving who've never done it before, which is always a challenge to do in home care because there isn't a lot of on-the-job training because you're in someone's home, and you need to know what you're doing once you get in there. So we're putting together a pathway for someone to learn what they need to know to be able to become a caregiver from scratch. We also offer paid training and paid orientation for all of our current hires. I mean, you'll be surprised things like that are not offered regularly. So just making the experience from start to finish for someone joining our team to be smooth, easy, compensated, and then providing those benefits is a huge one. Because again, as a caregiver, you do have a lot of options right now. If you were to go on Indeed right now and look for caregiving jobs, you would see hundreds of them in any market. And so as a caregiver, you're looking not just for the best rate of pay, you're looking for a company culture, and you're looking for stability too. And so we also can easily offer that. We're one of the fastest growing home care agencies. We'll easily in any given week looking to the future week, have over 500 hours that we are looking to fill with new caregivers. And so, just for the week. So it's a significant demand. And so, if someone wants to join our team and work full time, we will gladly have you join our team tomorrow.
Yeah. Where do you see the future of caregiving in terms of technology or robotics or interacting with the families? Where do you see that heading?
It's a great question. I've thought about this over the years. There was a couple of companies that tried to disrupt the home care industry in the last few years, the way it's been done. One of them is called Honor. They're still in existence. And the other one, I'm going to blank on the name, but they went out of business. Both of them were VC funded out of California. So they were both coming in to try to, VC meaning venture capitalist funded. So big pocket money investors were looking to put a lot of money into disrupting the home care industry and to Uberfy it, if you will, to make it into Uber. So the idea was, if you needed a caregiver, you just go on an app like Uber and you dial up a caregiver and they show up to your house whenever you need one. Both of those companies had to pivot. One of them went out of business, and Honor had to pivot away from that model. The model didn't work. And the reality, what they learned through that experiment was the technology can't replace the human element of managing someone's care. So it's not just the caregiver, it's all the people behind the scenes that make that happen. And just automating that didn't work, because if you put yourself in the shoes of a son or a daughter who's hiring a home care company, you want to know the person on the other end who's going to manage your mom or dad's care. You don't want that to be a computer, and you really don't want it to be a call center either. I mean, you want it to be a person that is going to be managing that care, so that if that caregiver doesn't do their job, they can be dealt with. And if the caregiver isn't the right fit, that they can deal with replacing the caregiver, but they know your mom or dad. So there's a local element to it. There's an element to it that needs to be world-class customer service. So we saw technology attempt to disrupt how we've done it, and not work. And instead, what we're seeing now and what we're implementing is, how can technology aid in the model that we have been doing for the last several decades? It's not going to change. It's just, how do we aid in how we do it? And so that's kind of, some of the pieces of technology that we use now. That's, those are the examples of how I see technology continuing to aid in what we do. I just think it's interesting to bring up for your viewers, how this industry has been attempted to be disrupted by technology, and it didn't work the way that the cab industry was disrupted by Uber. So I think the model, the way we do things, is going to stay relatively the same, but how we utilize technology to help us do it better, that's the key, and that's where I see where we're headed.
Yeah, I've grappled with that myself, just in providing remote tech support. And I've had several companies say to me, "Oh, we can come along, we can do your staffing for you." But it's not just it's not just a person. It has to be a fit, and it's an approach, right? Yeah, right. It's really a different. It cannot be Ubered, so it isn't. So I feel your pain there for sure. Yeah. As a small business leader, myself and for you, we encounter so many things. We put so much effort, so much time into our passion and our ideas, and how much we want to see things just take off. I'd love to know from you, what's something that you tried that just failed and you're still thinking about how to work it out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we I'm trying to, there's a few, so I'm trying to think of the best one.
There's got to be a few, right? It's just,
Yeah, no, I mean, any small business leader, is going to relate to the reality that you have to be willing to fail along the way to ever achieve anything, because you're going to try programs, you're going to try ideas, and some of them are going to work out and some of them are going to fail. And I think for small business leaders, the idea that failure is indicative of whether or not what you're doing is worthwhile is not the right barometer to be using, because we're going to experience failure along the way, and we have to just get comfortable with it. It's kind of the reality of it. And so, we've tried a few different things. We've tried, there's a program in Tucson that we actually used to heavily focus on assisted living placement, which is essentially where we are working with seniors who can't stay home and need to move to assisted living. And so we would help them find assisted living. We would receive a commission from the assisted living facilities to do that. And we've seen that slowly taper off in terms of the size of that portion of our business. It used to be significant in 2009 when we started, and today it's extremely small, a piece of what we do. And we really don't even advertise it anymore. In fact, if you go to our website, you won't see that on there. And what we've learned from that experience in trying to focus on both home care and assisted living referrals or assisted living placement is that this idea of being hyper-focused on our core focus is going to take us a lot farther and will be far more successful than trying to, let's say, be a jack of all trades in the industry. And I think the takeaway for me on that, and the learning experience now being in business for 13 years, is that being hyper-focused on the core focus will take you 10, 20, 30 times further, and you'll achieve far more success and serve way more people than trying to be everything for everyone. Or as soon as you see a need, I can create a solution for that. And then you see a need over here, and I can create a solution for that. And as entrepreneurs, oftentimes we can easily get distracted that way, because those are opportunities. And they're not fake. They're right. They're real. And it's like, and someone would pay for that, Yeah. And so we want to go, well, let's do that. And let's do that. And that can be like a death by 1,000 cuts for a business. Or it can just be where you're going to hit a ceiling, because you won't be able to do all those things well. And so you're just going to kind of stay small, and maybe you'll be dabbling in all these areas, but you're never going to see the hockey stick growth, because you don't know what your core focus is. You're not staying focused. So I feel like that's been a ongoing learning experience, but it's become more solidified for me in the last few years that this is who we are. This is what we do. Let's just get really, really good at it and just continue to grow what we do and not get distracted by this opportunity and that opportunity. So, and that's a continuous thing. Anybody that's watching this that knows me still knows that even I'll still look at opportunities that have approach me. So I'm not like perfect at this. It's just something that I've learned, and I'm still learning, and I know to be true. Is staying hyper-focused on the core focus is the key.
I feel you. I'm always looking for opportunities too. It's just how I'm just wired that way. Right. And I have had many people say to me, you can work with people in their 60s, right? Or, you can work with female entrepreneurs in their 50s and I'm like, yes, I can. Right. But that's not what I do really, really well. I work with older adults, much older adults in their 80s and 90s and sometimes 100s, helping them with their tech needs. That's awesome. That's really what, the real gem of what I do. So yes, it's hard to stay focused sometimes when you have a lot of capabilities to do other things, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. So where do you see Total Care Connections heading in the next 5 years?
So we are planning on continuing to launch locations. We actually have a management conference coming up with our managers in April, and we're going to be landing on our 10-year vision together. So one of the things that I'm really trying to do is invest in our leadership team and try to give them the opportunity to be the best leaders that they can be, and also collaboratively put some of these long-term big vision pieces together instead of it just being me. Growing the business starting out, it is just me, and I'm the one telling everyone this is what we're doing. And kind of the beautiful thing about growing and bringing in other great leaders who have talents and capacities that I don't have, that they make this company better, than I could make it on my own. Now I'm focused on how do we collaboratively put this together. So it's a great question, because I can tell you generically that over the next 5 years, we want to expand. We want to continue to add locations, both through acquisition. We've done 3 acquisitions, and then also through just opening up offices organically. I want to give people opportunity to grow from within. So when people say, why grow? Because, we have achieved a good size. Why would we continue to grow? It's not just to get bigger and to have more money. It's to give more people the opportunity to grow, because it's become a huge priority for me that we become the best place to work. So the bigger we become, the more opportunities we give other people to rise up. So that's a huge reason for me to grow. And so then we're going to fine tune that though in April as to how many locations do we want to have, in 10 years. And 5 years and 10 years. And so I'll have a better answer for you, but I can definitely tell you that giving more people the opportunity to grow and expanding to multiple locations is where we're at right now.
That's awesome. Yeah. What I hear you saying is truly more about what you're just doing, but also bringing more people in to grow the vision and to take ownership over that original concept. And that's admirable. Well done. Well done, Daniel. Well, I want to thank you for joining me today and for sharing how technology is assisting Total Care Connections within the caregiver shortage, and just say, hey, keep up the good work. All right.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah,
thank you. And for those of you who are still interested and have not registered yet, you can head to the Senior Living Foresight website and register for the Evolve 2022 conference I attended last year. I got to tell you, I'm so thankful for virtual conferences, because as a mom, it would not be possible. And this conference makes that 100% possible for you to attend and continue to do your work. So thank you. And I'll see you again soon.